Our readings for today provide us with an important spiritual lesson, and that is when we are prideful, we're possessed. We're possessed by our own fears, our need for control, and we see that theme throughout our readings for today. For example, in our first reading today, we hear this horrific story from the second book of Maccabees, in which a mother watches her 7 sons be tortured because their oppressors are not willing to show any mercy whatsoever. And so the mother is encouraging the final son, the youngest son, to remain steadfast in faith. And she's speaking to them in their own native tongue. And there's this interesting line that the torturer, the king, thinks that she's talking about him. He's so obsessed with his own pride that clearly they must be talking about him. Well, when in fact he's really not even that important enough to be talking about. He reveals how a prideful person is possessed. We see that even in our gospel today when Jesus gives the coins, uses this parable of a king who gives coins. And the one who has 1 coin says, because I'm afraid. I was afraid and I knew that you were a demanding person, so I hid it, the coin that you gave me. Possessed by fear. And we see this play out in our world today. We're possessed, you can see the worldly leaders are possessed by their need for control. We have to get so many seats in this part of the government. We have to regain control or hold on to control. That when we are ruled by pride, we desire to possess. We have to possess because we are ourselves possessed. Now, our readings for today also present us with the virtuous opposite to this vice. And that when we are humble, we freely give away. We are no longer bound to hold on to things, but we freely give them away. For example, we see that in the person who gave Jesus the king 10 coins. He realized that these coins weren't from him. He says, notice, your coin has yielded 10 more. Your coin. He realized it wasn't his to hold on to, but it was returning back to God, and it came from the king. It was coming from the king and was returning to the king. So too for us, what we have is given to us and returns back to him. We see that also in the mother today, in her speech to her 7 sons. She says very beautifully, she says, I do not know how you came into existence in my womb. It was not I who gave you the breath of life. She realizes even her sons are a gift from God to her. And so she's willing to let them go. She's willing to trust God completely and to have faith in him. We see this also in the saint we celebrate today, Saint Elizabeth of Hungary, who is an important person to know in Franciscan circles. She's an important Franciscan saint. She was a queen. She became queen when she was just 14 years old. She could have very easily lived a life of luxury and comfort. She had 3 children, and her husband passed away when they were only married 6 years. She was just 20 years old. And she had this profound desire to serve the poor and to care for those who were sick. And so she converted one of her castles even into a hospital. She also opened up a hospice house for those who were nearing death, and she cared for them. She went around in very simple dress. She realized that all that she had was a gift, and so it was easy for her to give it away. She was not possessed by pride, but in humility gave what she had. She passed away when she was just 24 years old. She's a great example to us of someone who recognized everything that we have is from God, and we can give it back to him. We see no more perfect example of that than Christ himself. As St. Paul very beautifully puts, though Jesus was in the form of God, he did not deem equality with God something to be grasped at, to be possessed by, but rather he emptied himself. So today Christ is inviting us through these readings to turn to humility so that we can be truly free, so that we can live in the freedom of Christ today.